Hello, Jen here, and I have a layout for you for the Off the Board series. So my Pinterest inspiration for this month is that cute cloud. In the pin, you can see that the person creating it took a piece of cardboard, just cardboard from a cardboard box, and cut out the shape of the cloud, and then made sure to cut the inside out of the cloud as well, and wrapped it in some yarn, and then wrapped some yarn down at the bottom to kind of give it almost like a dream catcher look with some fringe. And I thought it was super cute. I love the spring colors, the kind of pastel-y. Actually, they're a little bit more than pastel. They're a little brighter, but they're still kind of fun and springy and Eastery. And so I really thought it would be fun to play around with some yarn for an Easter layout. And I have tons of these different wall hanging pins. This particular pin, I don't know who the actual creator is. When you click on the pin, it brings you to a blog, and that particular blog post is just a list of 57 great wall hanging ideas for a kid's room, which is probably why I originally pinned it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really remember, but it is super fun, and I just love bringing in different textures and stuff like that to my scrapbooking. So my original plan was to do Easter eggs. I thought that they would be a pretty simple shape and would be easy enough to wrap with yarn. And I pulled out some of my stuff from my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit, which is all spring and all Easter, and I had these wood veneer. They come from Dollarama, and I noticed that there was that little bunny head in it, and I thought that might actually be a simple enough pattern or shape that I could go ahead and try and wrap that too. So I took some of that purple yarn, and you saw me there just wrapping it up. I think if I did this again, I think I will do this again, but I think if I was wrapping wood veneer, I would probably just use my tape runner. So I would just take my ATG gun and just cover the whole shape in adhesive, and I think the yarn would stick fine to the dry adhesive, and then maybe just put a few dots of the wet glue here and there to kind of give it that even stronger hold. But you could see how it was absorbing the wet glue, and it was sticking to my hands, and it didn't want to stay down, so I'm using clips right now to let it dry. So it does work. It definitely holds it really, really well, and it's a nice strong bond, but it took a little bit more time than I think if I had just used some dry glue. So just a tip if you plan to try this out. And then here you can see I used one of those wood veneer eggs to kind of create my egg shape. And then I cut that out, cut the center out, and now I'm going to wrap those with yarn too. And I saved you from watching me because it actually took me a bit of time. The pink one probably took about 5 minutes. The blue one only took a couple of minutes, but that yellow one took me probably 15 minutes. It's with embroidery floss, which is a lot thinner. The blue one took the least amount of time just because it's kind of fuzzy, and so that meant I didn't have to use as much of the yarn, and it kind of covers all the packaging in the background. But that yellow one did take a bit of time, so I saved you from watching me do that, but I think it might actually be my favorite. It turned out really cute. I didn't have any yarn that was in that kind of nice springy yellow color, so I used the embroidery floss. And I thought that I think it's called novelty yarn. I thought that the novelty yarns were kind of fun because they brought in just a different kind of texture and a different kind of look to them. And I think that is something about Easter eggs that kind of, just makes them extra fun and exciting, is all the different colors and shapes and sizes and stuff. Oh, yep, Storm just sat right down on my wet paint. That's okay. Oh, she made a little bit of a blob, but it gets covered up. Anyways, yeah, I kind of thought that was fun. But obviously, if you just want to use traditional yarn, go for it. That one was probably the easiest one. That's what I used for the little bunny's head, and it was definitely the most straightforward one, other than the fact that the wet glue was being wet glue. So once I got all of those done, my little yarn eggs, I decided to go ahead and paint some of these wood veneer eggs as well. So I have 6 eggs and I'm just painting them with my watercolors. I love the way that the watercolors work on wood veneer, and you can just keep adding layer after layer until you get the right intensity that you want. But these gave me this kind of beautiful pastel palette of colors, so I really liked that. And I also splattered any color that I used, I splattered onto my background paper. So while all of that is drying, I'm going to go ahead and create a whole bunch of layers behind my photo. I'm using papers from the Sunshine and Good Times from Amy Tangerine, and you can see there as I'm flipping through, it just has this gorgeous, beautiful, springy, Eastery palette to it. This paper here, I wanted some of the blue, just because I wanted to have kind of a bolder color behind that white layer. It's from Chamel, and I really like that blue. So that's one paper that's not from that collection. This paper, I can't remember what collection it is from. I just have a bunch of this one particular paper, but it's very springy, and again, it has that nice yellow, and it had a little bit of pink, so I thought that worked really well. And then there's one other paper, that very last paper, that it almost looks like it's a solid purple, very light purple, but it's actually purple and yellow striped. It also comes from Chamel. But all these other ones are Amy Tangerine, and I just think they're so pretty. Every once in a while you might see me stop. It's because I'm talking to my daughter. She's actually doing a Zoom dance class as I'm filming this, so she keeps saying, "Mom, look at this," or "Mom, can you see this?" So she's distracting me from my work. So I'm just going to keep adding on all of those layers. I just wanted to get lots of little bits of pattern and color popping through, and kind of alternating some of the more solid, darker patterns with some of the lighter ones, like that rainbow one. And my picture is just a bunch of eggs that Kaylin and I made way back in 2014. We used some food coloring and just used the technique where you hard boil the eggs and then you just crack the shell a little bit, so that when you actually break the shell all the way off, you get that really fun kind of marbled crackle effect to the actual egg white. Oh man, Storm wanted my paint water so badly. I don't know why she thinks she should be drinking that, but I think that might be the last time she pops up here before the kids go and play with her. She is a water cat. She absolutely loves water. So the minute she knew that I had water on my desk, that's all she wanted. So once I finished all of my layers, I did add a couple pieces of foam in between those layers so that they would really kind of pop up and you could see a little bit of shadow and dimension. And then there were a couple patterns that I didn't end up using. As many layers as there was kind of a point where it was more than too busy. So I just used those to create a little bit of a shelf that my picture could sit on. And then I'll just stick it right in the middle. And I like to do that because I just feel like when you stick it right in the middle, I didn't really have anything that was kind of circling it or anything like that. So it just kind of feels like it's floating there. So that shelf kind of, it helped me bring in some extra patterns, but it also gives me a place to kind of make my picture feel like it's at home. It grounds it. And this is kind of the basic idea that I have for what I want to do with all these eggs. I wasn't quite sure. I kind of had this idea in my head, but it wasn't coming together the way I thought it would. So I play around a little bit with it. And then I think I end up deciding that part of the reason I'm feeling like I can't quite figure out how to get all these eggs to kind of sit together is because you can actually see behind them. that's the point where I'm like, I think I can see behind them, and that's what I don't like. So I end up backing all of my eggs. I think that was my thinking hand. Like I was tapping, going, what should I do? What should I do? So I decided to go ahead and just back them all in roughly the same color that they are. So I'm using this kind of, I call it the jelly bean paper for the pink ones. So you can see a little bit of pattern, but really not enough. It's not, I wouldn't say it's distracting or anything like that. It just kind of adds a little bit of interest to the back of all of my eggs. So I'm going to use this one here for the yellow. I thought that yellow paper with the flowers was just a little bit too intense of a yellow, and that paper has a couple little yellow strips to it, so I thought that worked good. And I just went through all of my papers and backed them all. You can see them there. I didn't make you watch me do that because it was pretty simple. And now I don't know what it is about them being backed, but once I did that, I kind of felt like I could just go ahead and pull all of this together. So I'll cut all of that paper. For those ones there, I used the wet glue, and I really just let them dry really well before I decided to cut too close to them. Just again, because you want that yarn to kind of absorb some of that wet glue so that you get a really good bond with the paper. And I pulled out some foam because I had a feeling that there was going to be a lot of dimension happening with these little clusters. So that, especially with that blue egg, the yarn really gives it a ton of dimension, and so I have to use a lot of foam, and I end up going to my foam squares because they're just thicker. And I use quite a bit of them to try and make sure that all of my pieces are really stable and kind of built up, and none of them are smushing down in funny ways. And you know, while I was working on this layout, the kids pointed out to me that we didn't actually dye any eggs this year, which is really strange for us. We normally do it every year. We've tried a few different things. I try to do something different every year. So we've done the food dye, which was these ones, and we've made our own dyes with red cabbage and beets and onion and that kind of stuff. And we've done the tissue paper, where you wet the tissue paper and wet the egg, and then when the tissue paper dries, you can peel it off and the color has transferred. That one was really fun because you can kind of make patterns and stuff with different colors of tissue paper. And we've done shaving foam and all kinds of stuff, but this year we just didn't do anything. And I think it's because we don't have any white eggs. Eggs have been one of those things that have been really hard to get. We have been putting in grocery orders, so we don't actually go into the grocery store. We just pick up, and sometimes we get eggs, sometimes we don't. So when that happens, we end up going to the farm and getting some farm fresh eggs, or we go to the butcher shop and get, they carry Hutterite colony eggs. So oftentimes those eggs are not white, so you can't really dye them. The brown eggs and I guess maybe the blue, we get blue and green eggs sometimes. I think those would probably dye a little bit better, but the brown eggs definitely won't dye. So yeah, how are you guys doing? Is there any product, any food product or anything that you guys still can't get your hands on? For us, it's been eggs and it's been yeast. And for a while, flour, but it seems like we're able to get flour again if we go to Costco and get like the big 20 kilos of flour. But we were having a hard time finding yeast and eggs. It's weird. Anyways, back to the layout. So I pulled out some Spiegel Mom Scraps sequins to go ahead and put into all of my splatters, and those are all just from different packs. I also added my title Easter rainbow and a couple of the stars from this I think it's from the All Heart collection from Crate Paper, foam thickers, and then just some purple yarn on the top and bottom to kind of create a bit of a border. And that's it. That is my layout for this month. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, you can leave them for me down below in the comments, and the links to everybody who is playing along today are also down below in my description box. Until next time, happy scrapping, stay safe, bye!